My girlfriend is pregnant, and I'm only 15 years old. Hi, I'm Matt, and I want to talk to you about something that happened a couple years ago that changed my life forever. I remember I was in junior year, and we were all very stressed out because we didn't know who to invite to the prom. At that time, that was the most important thing. And since I was a basketball player, it was even harder because I had to pick the sexiest girl, and I was afraid of being rejected. One day during the internship, I saw a girl sitting there. She looked gorgeous and seemed not to fit in, and I knew that she was the one for me. I ended up as the worst player that day, and I thought I would die of shame. That's what brought us together. That's how she noticed me. Everything was very fast in our relationship, and we liked the same things, and we thought we were the perfect match. We kissed the first time that same afternoon, and 2 weeks later we were officially dating. I didn't know that much about sex, and I didn't really give any importance to contraceptives. Of course, that was a terrible idea. 2 months after we were together for the first time, my girlfriend called me very worried, telling me that she had a pregnancy test and that was positive. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. At first I was very annoyed, then I got even more frightened. I wasn't prepared to be a dad. This wasn't how it should be one of the best years of my life. Things did not disappear on the next day, and I had to take care of this new situation. The hardest thing was to talk to my parents, who had a lot of plans for my life. And now all that was about to go in the garbage. Luckily, I plucked up courage and spoke to them because they immediately began to support me and no longer felt alone or lost. They explained to me all I had to do, so I finished my school year while working at night to get as much money as possible. And even though I didn't feel anything for my girlfriend, I never stopped supporting her, even when she didn't want to see me. The most troubling thing was the day she had to give birth, since this day came 2 weeks early, and I don't know if I was prepared for what was coming. All my doubts disappeared when I saw my daughter, but I realized that my life would never be the same. My classmates didn't understand my new worries, and I could no longer talk to them about the same things. I had to work and study at the same time so I could take care of my daughter. And although things did not go as expected with my girlfriend, we were good friends, with a daughter in common. Now she is my reason to become a better person every day. And although sometimes I wonder how everything would have been if this had not happened, I always think I would not change anything I have now. I grew up as a person, and now I am a good man, a good father. This was not easy for me, and I'm sure everything would have been easier if I had someone to talk to about it. That's why I invite you to subscribe to this channel and find out more stories like mine and many of us, so you won't have to feel alone. I think my teacher is in love with me. We guys always say that we want to go out with a teacher, but this is a lie. Although the subject always comes out in conversations, the truth is, it is a simple game of children. No one really believes that these things can happen, or at least that's what I believed until the new school year began. I've always been very good at math, and thanks to the classes of my favorite teacher, Mr. Carl, I have been able to learn many things that will help me in the future when I become an engineer. This is why my life gave a 180 turnaround when I heard that Professor Carl was leaving my school. I spent many days thinking about this new change, knowing that I would not like it at all. I began to imagine this new professor as a monster, a teacher with no vocation or knowledge that would ruin my dream of being the best engineer. I spent the whole summer thinking about the same thing. And when the classes started, I realized that I was completely wrong. Professor Carl's replacement was Miss Johnson, a newly graduated teacher but with a lot of knowledge and desire to teach. From the beginning, I knew that there was a connection between us, since I was always the first finishing the exercises, and when she asked a question, she stood looking at me waiting for my answer. Everything was quite formal. But after the first 2 months of classes, we were much closer. We shared books, talked about unproven theories, and even made more difficult exercises than those that corresponded in class. She used to explain a new method to me, and then give me some exercises to do at home. And after I made them, she would correct them. It was the best thing that could have happened to me, a young and beautiful teacher who really cared about me and who treated me in a special way. Even once, when the class finished, she put her hand in my arm and stared at me in a way I wouldn't even know how to define, but I definitely felt hypnotized by her eyes. My mind was so confused. And when it was over, at the end of the school year, I made the decision to clarify things with her and see if her feelings were the same as mine. That week, I took care of doing the extra exercises with more care and ended earlier, which gave me the perfect excuse to stay after classes and talk to her. When we finally stayed alone, I approached her, gave her the exercises, and when I was about to tell her how I felt about her, a call came into her phone. On the screen appeared the photograph of a boy my age, very similar to me, but I could not read the name. While she talked on the phone, my heart was deflating. That meant I was not special at all. When she ended the call, I asked who she was speaking to, and she told me that it was with their dad. And seeing my face of confusion told me that the photo was of her brother, who was now out of surgery and that everything had gone out apparently well, but they didn't know if the cancer had completely disappeared. She told me that from one day she saw the similarities between us and could not help getting attached to me, since I reminded her of her brother before the illness. While she was looking for a current photo of her brother, I could not believe how foolish I was, and told her that I had no time right now, but in the next class we could see the photos. That's how I learned to make better conclusions. This is more common than a lot of you may think, but no one dares to take a step forward and tell their point of view. I invite you to share this video and reach many more people who may be going through the same.
I made a mistake just to have a friend. Sometimes it is difficult to tell a story where you have made a mistake, especially if you have been warned many times in the past. Anyway, I've decided to be courageous and tell my experience to help other people who might be in the same situation. I am 14 years old, and it is very difficult to fit into a new school, especially when you are a girl. Everyone thinks they know who you are by just seeing your clothes or the things you have, or any superficial detail. This is why the first friendship is the most important, to get away from stereotypes and become a person of flesh and blood with their own opinions and tastes. That's how I met this guy, Jeff, who was at the same classes as me. At first, he seemed to be as shy as I was, but we quickly started talking about deeper issues and felt that the time in school was not enough. We exchanged phone numbers, and it made me very happy to know that I was finally starting to fit into this new place. One Sunday, after talking for hours and hours, he told me that he wanted a photo to show him what I was doing. It did not seem bad, even amused me, this new activity in our conversation. This is how I began to send photos in which I appeared washing my teeth, brushing hair, washing dishes, doing homework. Until one day, more exact, one night, he asked me to send him a picture of my night clothes. I didn't know if that could be good or bad, and although I was a little doubtful, I decided I didn't care and I sent the photo. He said that he loved my shorts, that I had very nice legs, and that probably I had a nice butt too. I felt at first flattered, but then I found very uncomfortable his attitude and changed the subject. The next day, almost at bedtime, he asked for another picture of my night clothes, but this time I had a very short dress and I did not want to. He got annoyed and told me he wouldn't talk to me anymore because I didn't want to play with him, and I was so scared. He was my first friend in this new school and I didn't want to lose him. The next day, almost at bedtime, he asked for another picture of my night clothes, but this time I had a very short dress and I did not want to. He got annoyed and told me he wouldn't talk to me anymore because I didn't want to play with him. And I was so scared. He was my first friend in this new school and I didn't want to lose him. Suddenly, I wasn't feeling well talking to him. I felt like I was doing something wrong. And the worst of it was when my mom caught me taking one of those pictures with no clothes on. I thought I'd die of shame. But unlike what I thought, she didn't yell at me, just asked me what was going on, and crying, I told her everything. It was very difficult, but I took courage and told her that a guy was forcing me to send him photos, and that I agreed, but that I didn't want to do it anymore, and that if it happened again, I would have to tell her immediately. Thank you so much Mom, for everything. Just like I was, I'm sure there are a lot of people in my own situation who want to tell their story. I invite you to leave your story in the comments so others can also feel understood. I desperately needed to have a boyfriend. I don't know if all teenagers go through the same problems, but I thought I was the only one around the world who was going through my situation. I'm 16 years old and I've never had a boyfriend. It may seem like something normal, even something silly, but when you're a girl and you've never had a boyfriend, it makes you feel like something is wrong with you. One night in a sleepover with my best friends came the subject of the boyfriends and I wanted to disappear. They were all talking about their love experiences, their first kisses, and how exciting it was to send and receive romantic messages, while I felt increasingly unhappy and out of place. I didn't know what was wrong with me, but I was simply not attracted to any school kid, and the worst thing is that nobody liked me. I felt that I would die alone and that my friends would stop meeting me for that reason. So I made the only decision I could see: getting a boyfriend. I started using more makeup than I always wore. Then looking through all my clothes, I started to use only the clothes that best highlighted my body. My mom asked me if something happened to me, but I didn't want to tell her. The adults will never understand what we went through, so I decided it wasn't worth trying to explain anything. But the days passed and I still did not achieve what I wanted so much. I was not even able to advance a little in my search. As I was trying to be perfect for the kids more and more, I became friends with Jessica, a girl who sees advanced literature with me. She did notice my changes, and every day she told me how good I looked, but that she missed the old me. I felt a strange emotion every time I spoke to her, and without realizing, I began to dress as before, without exaggerating at all, trying to please more that girl who had noticed the changes in me. We started going out more often, doing work together, occasionally going to the movies or to the park, or just staying late at home to talk nonsense. One day I found myself thinking about Jessica and smiling like a fool, and suddenly I lost my smile. Fear surrounded me and I thought I would cry. I was falling in love with my friend. I was very afraid to lose her because of these stupid feelings, and I didn't know what to do. The days went by and I got sadder. Jessica realized, and one day when the classes ended, she asked what was wrong with me. I explained in tears my feelings and I looked to the floor waiting for her to run. But on the contrary, she hugged me and said very short, "I feel the same." And I knew that everything would be fine. Since then, I have stopped trying to be someone I am not because I realized that the most important thing is to be honest with myself. The hardest part of everything was the loneliness. So I think the best thing from now on will be looking for company in people who have been through the same or might need some advice. I invite you to leave in the comments that story you want to share with everyone.
Hi, I'm Leo, and I'm 16 years old. I live in a small town with my parents, and I'm the only child, which is why my parents have always been too protective of me. Like most kids, I'm a very disciplined child, and like everybody, I have my fair share of secrets too. Now, I will tell you about a little secret of mine which might have been the most dreadful act I have ever committed. It is a very well kept secret until now. Finally, it is time to lift the curtain. It was an incident that took place about 2 years ago when I was 14 years old. I was a young boy who was not worried much about living my life to the fullest. I still vividly remember that day. It was October 10th, a day that left a mark on me forever. I learned something that day which I will never forget until my last breath. And I'm sharing this story in the hope that you will learn from it and not make the same mistake that I made when I was faced with such a situation. My mom accidentally tore her $10 bill, and so she decided to take a pair of scissors and adhesives to mend that $10 bill. She placed the scissors and the adhesives on the table and went to the kitchen to do some housework and forgot about the money that she planned to fix. The bill was sitting right in front of me. I stared at that money for a while and saw that my mom was still doing her housework. And in that moment, I don't know what happened to me. I'd never done this kind of thing before in my life. I just wanted to have that money. So I picked up the money and went to the market because I desperately wanted the new issue of my favorite comic, which happened to be released that very day. I went to different bookstores to search for that comic but was not able to find it. Finally, after searching for a while, I found a store having the latest issue of that comic. So I went to that bookstore, I looked for a while, and finally found the comic. I picked up the comic and went to the checkout counter. As I gave the $10, I thought about that mistake that I had just made, and in that very second I was filled with nothing but feelings of guilt and regret. As I was about to leave the store, I saw my father, who was there to buy a newspaper. He was standing behind me in the checkout counter, and he gave the cashier a $20 bill. The cashier gave him $10 back. Coincidentally, it was the same $10 bill that I had just given to the cashier. I still remember hearing my heart beat at that moment. My dad asked me what I was doing there. I told him I came to buy a book, and he didn't ask any other questions. We both walked back home together. On our way home, my dad realized that the $10 bill that the cashier gave him was torn. So when we got back home, my dad saw the scissors and the glue that my mom had left on the table. He started to fix that $10 bill, and while doing this, his phone rang, which was in the next room. And he went there to pick up the phone and forgot all about the $10 bill that he had left on the table. After a while, my mom came back to the drawing room and saw the torn $10 bill on the table right where she left it. She picked up that $10 bill and started to fix it with the glue. My parents never found out about what I did that day. I was shocked to my senses. I still regret making that decision and was so thankful, but the thought never left my mind. And that very day, I learned a very valuable lesson, that whatever you do in this world comes back to you. What goes around comes around. Everything is interconnected. If you do a bad deed, it comes back to you in such a way that you least expect. And in case you get caught stealing, your credibility comes into question, and it stains you for life, and you're never able to recover the trust and respect ever again. There's no place for an immoral person in society, so we must keep our hands and our minds clean and avoid stealing things that do not belong to us. Just as bad deeds come back to us, so do the good deeds. So we must avoid such vices and spend only what is ours. I also learned that guilt is a lot to bear. And if a person starts doing these types of things at a very young age, they'll do even worse things in the future and destroy their whole life. It might look really small at this time, but as we know, single drops of water creates the whole sea. Same goes for bad deeds. Doing small bad deeds can cause problems for the person in the future. Please like and share this video, and let me know in the comment section if you think I should tell my parents or if you think I should have told them earlier. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.
Hi, I'm Jane. For so many reasons, people actually believe that I was born with a silver spoon. In reality, I think they were wrong. As a matter of fact, mine could exactly be described as a golden spoon. The truth is that I had virtually everything a young child could ever dream of. From top notch clothes to toys, the list was endless. Yes, there weren't few, I had them in abundance. However, even with all these at my beck and call, my actions still depicted one that had nothing. On several occasions, when Mum took me and two of my siblings to the store for shopping, I'd eagerly wait for a perfect opportunity to slip anything my hands could possibly get a hold on inside my pocket, or bag, as the case may be. Well, it was easier for me to do this without being caught, due to the fact that I was always waiting for a perfect distraction before I strike. Yeah, I was very smart. So I thought. Unfortunately, Mom never knew that those moments she kept inquiring and asking tons of questions about the products she wanted buying in the store were perfect moments, opportunities I used to execute my plan. I didn't see any big deal with what I did, since the things I picked weren't costly, just snacks, toys, and other little stuffs. As a matter of fact, I thought I was absolutely normal for kids my age to do things like this, as long as they aren't caught. Over time, I didn't just stop with picking things from the store. I sometimes went as far as stealing from the offering box in the church. One day, while my parents and siblings were watching TV in the parlor, I sneaked into my dad's room and took a few dollars out of his drawer. Just when I was about sneaking out, I heard a voice. Jane, what do you think you're doing? Even without turning, I knew I was caught by Mom. I was so scared, not because of what I did, but because I didn't want to be grounded. Yeah, punishment scares the hell out of me. I begged Mom not to tell Dad, and I promised her never to steal again. Since I was Mom's favorite, I actually knew she'd forgive me and keep our little secret. Actually, that was exactly what happened. As I got older, my siblings and everyone in my family started complaining of missing properties on a daily basis. Aside from Mom, no one else knew who the real culprit was. With my innocent face, no one ever suspected me. Well, since Dad was always ready to replace the missing properties with a better one, I didn't feel terrible about this habit of mine. One day in high school, during the break period, when other students went to get their snacks, I carefully opened my seatmate's bag, and before I could remove the new toy I saw her with earlier on, I heard her shout from behind me. I knew it. Rosie happened to be my seatmate, and everyone knew she wasn't the type that keeps secrets. That's why they nicknamed her Basket Mouth. Just like a basket, Rosie never kept anything to herself. I began to sweat profusely. The mere sight of her made me realize I was already in a serious trouble. Rosie, on the other hand, didn't care much about my sad face and tears that were rolling across my beautiful chubby cheeks. She wasn't ready for my self pity antics. Now, with a loud voice, she inquired, You rich, beautiful thief, what were you doing in my bag? Before I could come up with a convincible lie, Rosie was already heading to the principal's office. Nothing I said made any sense to her. At this point, I could picture myself being expelled from school. The worst of it all is that I'd be regarded as the rich, beautiful thief by everyone who knew me. Out of desperation, I knelt down and said, Rosie, I'll do anything you ask me to do from now on, as long as you don't tell the principal about this. I don't know where that idea came from, but, well, it worked. Rosie, who was moving at a very fast pace, stopped immediately. I said that. She turned, smirked, and added, Not like you've got any other choice. Deep within me, I heaved a sigh of relief. Throughout the day, Rosie didn't say anything to me, and personally, that singular experience has already changed my entire life. What I never knew was that I only got myself into deeper trouble. The next morning in school, Rosie demanded I surrender my pocket money to her, or else she'd head straight to the principal and report how I tried to steal from her. Her facial expression alone showed that she meant everything she said. Well, I had no choice. My reputation meant more than a mere pocket money. I gave her the money and spent the rest of the day fighting back hunger. From asking for pocket money, Rosie started demanding I copy her notes as well as do her assignments, or else stand a chance of getting our secret exposed. Just like she said that day, I had no choice. I knew what I was passing through in Rosie's hands wasn't right, but then I was paying for my sins. All along, I was ignorant of the fact that Rosie, just like she had always been, had told her friends about the incident. It took a matter of time. One of the students teased me with it. "You rich, beautiful thief! Leave my seat before my books disappear!" Everyone in the classroom laughed so hard. I've never felt so embarrassed all my life. I ran out of the classroom and cried my eyes out. I didn't realize that the principal was standing quite close to me, waiting for me to let go of whatsoever was bothering me. Yes, my principal is one of those persons that believe that crying isn't a form of weakness, but strength. I'm sure she heard that I wasn't sobbing anymore, that she said, "Jane, you can tell me about it. I'm here for you." Those assuring words were enough reasons for me to let the cat out of the bag. I didn't just tell her about trying to steal from Rosie. I told her about my entire childhood mistakes, too. Although she tried hard to keep a fairly normal face, but I knew she was so disappointed. After what seemed like a lifetime confession, she could only mutter, "I'm proud of you. You allowed your mistakes to shape you into a better person." She went further to explain why trying to conceal my offense was wrong. Later in the day, she came to my classroom and spoke on why we couldn't capitalize on another person's mistakes. She told Rosie that what she did was a crime just like mine. We got to learn about blackmail and its resilient effects. My mistake was not just a lesson for me, it was also a big lesson to others as well. That was the beginning of a more normal life for me. Like and share this video, and also let me know in the comment section what you think about my mom, if her actions encourage my negative lifestyle. Also, I would like to hear your own story. If you have experienced something like this, let's hear your story in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe.
Hey guys, I am Mark, and my dad makes a living by lying. Yes, that is exactly what you heard. Now let me tell you guys a story. A story about how everything in my life changed. I was born into a very rich family. My mom had her own business, but my dad was just a clerk. Everything was perfect for me. I was living my life to the fullest and enjoying every single moment. My dad and my mom had a loving marriage, so they both were happy in the start. But now things started to take a different turn, and they started to get into fights a lot of times. I mean, sometimes even for useless reasons that weren't necessary. The fights started to escalate with the passage of time. My mom and dad never involved me in their fights, and one day, when I came back from school, I saw my dad sitting on the table. He was looking so shocked and sad, but I couldn't find my mom in the house, and my dad asked me to come sit with him. I sat on the table with him, and he told me that my mom had just filed for divorce. I was shocked to my core. At the moment, I wasn't sure about what would happen to us because my father wasn't that rich. But the thing that made me really sad was that my mom didn't care about me, not even a bit. How could she do this to us? A week later, my dad was let go from his job. It was a really rough time for us. I had no idea about what would happen to us, but things started to take a really different turn. My dad totally changed himself from start to end. It was like he wasn't even the same person he was before. He got a new job, but it was too different from any other job, and it seemed really unusual. The work hours and the pay was way too much, and our house was totally changed. My dad started to buy a lot of suits and shoes worth hundreds of dollars. Had never dressed so good before. Now let me tell you guys what was really happening. My dad ran a dating website. He was a plus for women. People used to pay him for going on pretend dates with them, and the amount that they used to pay was handsome. My dad was pretty good looking from the start, but he wasn't that into fashion, and now he looked like something else. He became so good looking and handsome, he didn't even look like the typical dad. In fact, he started to care about his skin and clothes and hair. His first client was a really rich woman, and she wanted a pretend date to go with her to a family event because her family always used to criticize her for being single. And my dad was so confused at that time because it was his first time doing this. But somehow, he gained the courage and confidence to do it. And the woman's family was so impressed with my dad He's quite a pleaser, and the woman was so happy with my dad that she gave him a check of $100,000. My dad always kept his identity secret from everyone, and he used to switch personalities according to the role of the job. You might be thinking what I was doing all this time. Well, I was enjoying my life to the fullest at this point. I had nothing to worry about. Everything was just perfect. My dad was always busy, so he never asked me that many questions about what I was doing. Money wasn't an issue either at that time, and I barely missed my mom. But why would I miss her? She was the one who left us. So I found out about my dad when I bumped into him once at a club, where he showed up with the owner of the club, and he was so good looking, like a young bachelor. I lied to him about going to my friend's house for a sleepover. My friends and I decided to go to a club and have some fun. So we were chilling, and I saw him across the club with Miss Anderson, who was the owner of that club. And at first, I couldn't even recognize him. But after some time, I got courage to go up to him, and I asked him, "Dad, what are you doing here?" And he totally ignored me, as if he didn't even know me. He told the bartender to buy us drinks on his tab, and at that moment, I knew something was wrong. So I just went back to my friends, and my friend asked me that if he was my dad, and I told him, no, it's just someone who looks a lot similar to my dad. And after some time, I got a call from my dad asking me to get my ass back home. When I reached home, I asked him what was going on. For hours we sat together, and he explained everything to me from start to end about his job, why he joined the job, what the job pays, and how he pretends to be someone's date or anything they want. He told me that one of my mom's friends wanted him to go to a business meeting as his date, and my mom was also going to be in that meeting too. It was my dad's biggest deal and a really great work opportunity. He asked me what he should do, and I thought for a while. I was really angry at my mom, so I told my dad to go through with it and do it. And my dad took the deal. At the 10th of that month, the meeting was going to happen. So my dad showed up at the conference that day, and he took me with him too. I came there as his personal assistant. I was looking for my mom for a while, but didn't see her in the conference room. And after some time, she showed up, hand in hand, with a man who she was dating. I wasn't ready for that, so I got confused and I didn't know what to do. I kept on exchanging texts with my dad while sitting there, and he told me not to worry and everything will be totally fine. So I tried to bring back that confidence. My mom saw me and my dad there at the conference room. The meeting went on for an entire hour, and my mom kept staring at me and my dad the whole time. Maybe she was so confused seeing my dad being so well dressed and so well managed. He looked like a different person. And after the meeting, my mom couldn't resist talking to my dad and came to say hi to him. It was a rule on the job that you don't talk to anyone you know during the job. And my dad handled it so well. He said, "Hi, nice to meet you. If you have any questions, kindly consult my assistant," and pointed towards me. She came to me, and in a very shocked manner, she asked, "Mark, is that you?" I replied with, "Hi, Mom, nice to see you." But it was not nice at all to see her. She was the one who left us. And after that, my dad and I had a great understanding between us. I was managing his clients, and sometimes if he didn't feel like going, I would go in for him instead. And that is how my dad lies for a living. The lesson I wanted to share with you guys is that life does not stop because of a single person. If my dad had not changed himself after my mom left him, we wouldn't even be here. Like and share this video, and also let me know in the comment section what you think about my dad's job, and if you have experienced something like this, then tell me your story in the comment section.
The taxi driver who loved me. Hi, today I will tell you a story that taught me a lot of lessons. The most important one was that sometimes what may seem true is not true, and we shouldn't be so fast into thinking assumptions about people. My name is Carol. I am 16 years old. I live far away from my parents. Because of my school, I live alone in a small apartment. Well, not really alone because I have a cat with me and her name is Sam, and she means the world to me. We do everything together and go to every place together. She is my family here when I am feeling down. I play with her and all the sadness just simply fades away, and it's like she's an antidepressant to me. I don't make many friends, and it's really difficult being alone. My parents knew that, therefore they gave Sam to me as a gift. It took me some time to adjust to the new place, but I got used to it. There is this taxi driver who is a lot older than me. He also lives somewhere near my house, and he usually drives around the area. And the thing that I wanted to tell you about him is that he is in love with me. Well, at least that's what I used to believe. He is a really nice person. I had seen him a couple of times in the street and after school. We talked for a while and I realized that he is in love with me. He is always so nice to me, and sometimes too nice. It made me a bit suspicious about him and his intentions. Being a girl of my age who lives alone, I was a bit careful about these things. I had been in his taxi several times and nothing wrong happened. One day I went to the market to buy some cat food for Sam and some things for my apartment. I took Sam with me because I never leave her alone. I took the bus to get to the market because it was really far away from my house. When I got to the market, I bought cat food and other household accessories that I needed, and after shopping for a while, I got really tired and thought, I might eat something because my house is very far away from the market. It would take a lot of time to get there, so I looked for a restaurant and had a meal there. I was so busy shopping and doing other things that I completely forgot that it's gotten so late, so I went to the bus stop. After that, unfortunately, I just missed the bus by a minute. The next bus was going to come in an hour. I waited at the bus station for almost half an hour with my cat, and still half an hour was left. The time was moving so slowly. Seconds seemed like hours. There were some passengers waiting at the bus stop. One of them told me that sometimes the next bus takes about 2 hours to get at the stop. And that got me really worried because the sun had almost set. There was no sign of the bus, and after some time, a taxi stopped in front of me. When the window got rolled down, it was the same man about whom I was telling you guys about. He told me that he had completed his shift and was heading home, and coincidentally, he saw me at the bus stop since his home was near mine. He suggested me to get into the car with him and he would drop me off at my home. I got really worried about what to do because it was getting so late and still no sign of the bus, and I was afraid that he might do something to me. After thinking for a while, I decided to get into the car with him. I got in the back seat and he started the car. It was a long journey in front of us, so he started to ask questions about me and we started talking. During our conversation, he was being a bit flirty and was staring at me the whole time from the back of the mirror of the car. Honestly, guys, I was a bit scared too. But I had Sam with me, so I overcame the fear and tried my best not to let him know that I was scared. By looks, he looked like a decent man. Something wrong wasn't expected from him, but still my mind was creating different situations about what could go wrong. And guys, there were a lot of things that could have gone wrong in that ride. We were halfway into our journey that he suddenly stopped the car and looked at me. Imprecise, he was looking at my breasts. Then he bent his neck and he tried to grab my chest. Well, at least that's what I thought he was doing. But that didn't happen. I had Sam in my hands. At that moment, I had no idea what to do. I was in severe shock at the moment, so I closed my eyes. But turns out he was picking up Sam, and I thought he was going for my breasts. I got really shocked and frightened at that moment, and he realized that. He felt so guilty and apologized to me for grabbing Sam like this. But then he explained why he did that. When he was young, he had a cat just like Sam. He showed me her pic, and the resemblance between his cat and my cat were uncanny. He told me that he loved her so much and told me all the stories about his cat and all the adventures him and his cat had. I asked him where his cat was now and what happened to his cat. This question brought a huge deal of sorrow on his face, which gave me the answer to my question. Then he told me that once he was going someplace and he had a really big accident. The cat was with him in the accident, and unfortunately, the cat couldn't make it out alive from the accident. He was also really injured, but he was more sad about the loss of his cat than his own injury. I got so sad after hearing all this because I couldn't even imagine what I would do if something like this would happen to Sam, because she is my everything, my whole world. After that, we talked for the rest of our journey, and we became good friends too. Though I love Sam a lot, I told him that he could play with her for some time if he wants to, because I had an idea of the pain from which he was going through. He told me that it's a really nice gesture from my side, but he couldn't take Sam away from me. He said he didn't want me to go through what he went through when he lost his cat. We didn't realize in our talking that we had reached home. I wanted to talk to him more, but I guess that was it. He dropped me off at my apartment. I offered to pay for the journey, but he didn't take a single penny. I even tried forcefully to give him the money, but he didn't take it. So I thanked him a lot and went inside my apartment. He also went to his house after that. When I was about to sleep, I realized that he was only looking at my cat and he was only being nice because he was a nice person. He didn't have any wrong intention. At that moment, I reflected upon how wrong I was and was really feeling ashamed for thinking this wrong about such a nice person. I wanted to tell him all this and what I thought about him and how wrong I was. I really wanted to apologize to him many times, but never got the courage to do so. We humans are really fast in judging people. We all are. We start making up assumptions about a person, that what type of person he or she is, and we stick with false assumptions, but when we realize that our assumptions are wrong, we are all left with nothing but guilt. That day, I learned an important lesson that is going to stick with me forever, which is we should never be so fast into making assumptions about people. We have to at least give them a chance to explain themselves. If you like my story, kindly like this video and tell me in the comment section what you think I should have done. Should I have told him, or not telling him was a good decision? Also, share any similar experience if something like this happened to you. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon.